Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our webinar called Design, Discover, Build, Find the STEM Pathway That Fits You, sponsored by Teen Life and Wentworth Institute of Technology. My name is Lonnie Burrell, and I will be your moderator for this webinar. To everyone with the webinar timing, we are first going to begin with our presentation, and then we'll have the opportunity to answer your questions during our live Q&A. While our presenters are sharing their information, feel free to begin submitting your questions by going to the Q&A button and placing your question there. Also, this webinar will be recorded and available to you. We will send out the link through your email and you'll be able to access it. So, with that said, I now want to turn it over to our presenters to introduce themselves and then take us through our first poll.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us and for tuning in today for today's session. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. I'm sure we have folks from all around the country and even around the world. My name is Andreas Armenis. I use the he series of pronouns, and I serve as the director of pre-college programs at Wentworth Institute of Technology. For those of you that might not have heard of Wentworth before, we are a smaller size STEM and design institution located in Boston, Massachusetts. I am probably the least cool person here on this call. I'm joined by my partner in crime on all things pre-college. So I'll pass it on over to her to introduce herself.
Awesome. Thank you. My name is Loretta Grimes. I serve as the Associate Director of Pre-College Programs at Wentworth Institute of Technology. Um, Very excited to chat with you guys this evening, this morning, this afternoon, wherever. And so thank you for joining us. And I hope you enjoy our presentation.
So, as we chatted about today, and the focus of today's presentation is to really give you an idea of potential pathways in STEM. So, before we jump into our slides in our deck, what we have is a little bit of a quick poll, and that is for us to get a stronger idea of what our sort of attendees here tuning in are interested in learning a little bit more about. So you should see a poll pop up on your side of the screen with a quick question that asks, what areas of STEM are you most curious about?
Yes, so the results are coming in. Thank you to everyone. We're going to
Yay.
leave it open just for a few more seconds, and then I will share the results. Okay. All right, I'm going. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Andreas, does the results pop up on your end?
I Yes, here they are. Perfect.
There you go.
Like sometimes it takes a quick second.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. So we do see a handful of health and biomedical. Great. I'm not sure yet, but excited to explore. Wonderful. This is right where you need to be. Some folks interested in coding, also inventing and building. Fantastic. This is
Yeah,
great.
that's
Um,
great.
thank you all so much for indulging us in that poll. And it's really helpful. It gives us an opportunity to frame today's conversation as we jump into our slides. Um, for those of you that might have indicated on that poll that you're not quite sure what it is that you want to study down the line and you're currently undecided, you are in great company. One of the biggest actual misconceptions is that students have a strong idea of what it is that they want to know come time of even applying to college. So depending where our listeners are tuning in from and where you are in your high school journey right now, you may or may not have an idea, and that's totally normal. Really, our hope with today's session is to give you all a glimpse into what it's like to explore different STEM pathways, starting with a strong focus and look at what it is you're currently interested in. In fact, I want to share with you all around 35% of students that are entering college right now across the country are actually entering undecided. And
Mhm.
so one of the reasons why we're really excited about sharing this is we do, like many other institutions at Wentworth, offer an exploratory option for students that are coming in or joining in as their first year. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that exploratory pathway looks like at Wentworth later on in today's presentation. But really in today's focus is we're looking at how your potential interests, maybe inside the classroom, outside the classroom, will really help inform you choosing a major pathway from here. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in. Both Loretta and I are going to sort of take some time and break down these next couple slides for you all. We do have sort of themes centered for each of our slide. For any of our 90s fans here on the call who may or may not have watched Captain Planet back in the day, for those of you that have a strong interest and love in connecting in honestly caring about our planet, if sustainability, environmentalism is something that really motivates you and excites you, or maybe you've been impacted by environmental catastrophes, whether that's earthquakes, tsunamis, wildfires. Really, this is sort of the theme that we're going to be diving into to share a little bit more about potential opportunities. So, some of the questions that we have here on the slide: are you motivated to protect the planet that we share? Do you imagine cities or cars that are designed to promote happiness and reduce pollution? Or do you want to create inventions that use green materials and sustainable processes, right? So if I share these questions with you all and those potentially resonate with you or excite
Mhm.
you, really potential opportunities or pathways in terms of majors in environmentalism or sustainability are things that you might be interested in. So students who are interested in some of these topics and these areas are students that could potentially be interested in sustainability. They could be interested in civil engineering, mechanical engineering, electromechanical or electrical engineering, or even climate change and resilience.
Mhm.
Right. So whether it's sort of working in the lab to create sort of biodegradable material, or looking at the environment that affects us, right? The climate change that we've been facing across the country and how those impact wildfires across the country. Really looking at some of these different major pathways and understanding how we can navigate these areas and really create a better, more sustainable world is something that is definitely possible. So picture cities that breathe, clean transportation, truly sustainable products, the architecture and the infrastructure that is around our environment and in the cities that we live in. All of these offer powerful tools for change. If these are things that potentially interest you, these major areas or pathways here on the screen are potential pathways that you should look to consider. So we have a couple of different sort of topic areas that we want to cover. So I am going to pass it on over to Loretta, who's going to share a little bit more about our helping and healing section, which I know is going to interest many of you here on this call today.
Yeah, absolutely. So help and heal. And so if you've ever thought to yourself or um, wanted to answer some of those big questions, right? How can people live longer? Maybe how can I cure specific illness or sickness? Maybe you've been impacted by, or if you are into sports or an athlete yourself, and you're always thinking about how humans kind of push the those boundaries of human endurance. This could be a section for you and something that you're thinking of. When students typically get to this section, a lot of students are thinking about pre-med or want to go pre-med, and that is absolutely amazing. We definitely always can use more doctors in this world, but I definitely want to just be able to introduce the theme of other majors and interests that could come out of the healthcare industry as well. So for help and heal, we're going to talk about a little bit biomedical engineering, biological engineering, using data science as well as applied sciences, right? So biomedical engineering, it's really going to be working with medical devices. A lot of students are interested in working with prosthetics, right? How can we use medical devices to improve everyday life? How can we take the medical devices that we already have and improve those? So improving imaging, so that could be X-rays, CTs, MRIs, inventing new surgical instruments that can help surgeons in the operating room. That is really going to be a field that a lot of students are interested in. Pacemakers, again, working with those medical devices. Then students can also look into data science, which is really thinking about trends and data sets that are used to maybe predict patient outcomes or patient risk, really being able to personalize treatments based on, an individual's genetics, their lifestyle. Again, thinking of using that data to improve the everyday life of everyone. Um, and then we have applied sciences and biological engineering. So, whereas biomedical is working with devices, biological, you're really talking about, right, medicines, finding cures for diseases, maybe gene and cell therapy for patients that have sickle cell and cystic fibrosis. So, you're really able to take a practical problem and develop, like I said, treatments, diagnostic tools, and other techniques to kind of improve or make those processes more efficient. Okay. This is a big section. This is my engineers. Love my engineers. So Um, if you have ever maybe replaced your own phone screen, or you like or enjoy taking things apart just to look at the inside and see how things work. Um, if you're interested in, how a self-driving car works, engineering, that could be something that you are also interested in. So engineers at their core, engineers are problem solvers, right? They want to use science and use tech to really tackle real world problems, real world challenges. And so there are mechanical engineers, aerospace engineering, right? I have students who are mechanical engineers that like to build cars, some that like to build rockets, some that like to build robots, boats, motorcycles, drones. Um, and so it really is about that design, the analysis, and the manufacturing. Um, Mechanical engineers really enjoy the systems and the machines that they get to work with. Um, so that is also a great track to think of under our engineering section. And then civil engineering. Civil engineering, it really is about the design and planning of our roads, our bridges, highways, dams, thinking about sewage and water systems that we have underneath our cities, right? These are things that sometimes you may be walking on the road, driving, you don't even notice it. But there is so much thought, so much planning, and so much design that goes into all of this to make sure that a city is running and functioning, that we have the infrastructure to make sure that all of these things are running smoothly. And so whether you live in a crowded city or whether you live out in a more rural area, or on a farm, a wind farm, you are really just thinking about and building infrastructure for the city, and for those highways to make them better. And then construction management obviously is the building of those. So whereas civil engineering is that design and planning phase, construction management really is the actual building of those roads and those highways and bridges. Um, Next, we have computer science and robotics. And some people might be like, well, how? I thought we were talking about engineering. How did computer science sneak in there, right? Well, when we think about robotics and building and planning and designing robots, you really can't do that without um, then the computer science and the programming of those robots, right? And that is done through code, through software, AI, machine learning. that really they really kind of have to go hand in hand when you're talking about one, you kind of have to address the other. I'm thinking back to our summer program where we had like our students do a Roomba activity where they were able to like code and program the Roomba to go through an obstacle course. So those are the types of things that you get to think about when you're talking about that computer science and robotics engineering going hand in hand. And I'll pass it back to Andreas to talk about our next topic.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And so, for those of you that are interested in computers or the world of computing, right? Many of you have probably heard about the field of computer science, but have you dived deeper into computer information systems? Or have you learned a little bit more about information technology or even cybersecurity as an option? We're going to share a little bit more about those in just a little bit, but I'm really curious how, you know, obviously, I can't see you since it's webinar format, but raise your quick hand on the other side of the screen if you've ever leveraged or, had a quick question and you jumped into ChatGPT to ask that question, right? Many of you might be raising your hands on the other side of this screen, right? Wondering what it is that ChatGPT is going to spew back to you as an answer. Some of you might have, been shopping for Cyber Monday very recently or Black Friday, depending, and have navigated some really beautiful websites and have thought to yourself, oh my gosh, this is so cool. How did they add this video in here? And how did they sort of design this website in this particular manner? And then the next thing you know, you have like 5 things in your cart and you're hitting checkout and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? Or potentially, we might have some builders on our hand, right? For those of you that might love and spend time on Minecraft or Roblox, and your servers are your happy place, right? You really, really enjoy those experiences. Or many of you may or may not have the Meta glasses or Apple Vision goggles, and might be able to sort of see what it is to feel and be in the meta universe, right? That virtual frame VDR, that virtual reality. Maybe you're playing a game with those frame VDRs and sort of experiencing a game experience when you have those headsets on. So if any of those things are things that, might interest you or connect with you, there's a variety of different pathways for you in the computing area and realm. Really, one of the biggest things that we really want you all to take away is that technology touches everything and anything that we do, whether it's leisure or whether it's work. Technology is really ingrained in all and everything that we've done. So cybersecurity, computer science, or we at Wentworth have a very unique program that blends both computing and the sciences and the humanities in computer science and society. It allows you to look at computer science and how you can leverage computer science for that good in the world, right? Specifically, cybersecurity. How are you able to ensure that the companies, the systems, the government spaces, the areas, whether that's your own personal home or the government agency that you work for, are secure from digital threats and disasters. Obviously, artificial intelligence has seen a peak in sort of these recent years and really understanding artificial intelligence, but there is an opportunity to explore the art of artificial intelligence through an applied artificial intelligence program, right? And what does that applied mean? It means how do you leverage AI in different spaces, in different industries and areas, right? So we've seen a really, really big surgence of embedded AI, right? What is embedded AI? Embedded AI are things like Copilot. There are things like Apple Intelligence. It might have taken Apple a little longer to get it out to us or roll it out to us iOS users, but those are perfect forms of sort of embedded artificial intelligence, right? They're embedded in devices and software that we use on an everyday, day-to-day basis. But how are we harnessing that big data? How are we designing those networks to be efficient? Also, information technology and computer information systems. Have you had an interest for computing, but also had an interest for business, right? So you might be really interested in computers and fashion, right? Believe it or not, there's an opportunity to leverage computer information systems in that realm and really help businesses like TJX become the most, successful businesses and really shape different businesses, e-commerce platforms, and the systems within their individual businesses so that they're successful entities in the end of the day. So there's a couple of different avenues and ways. And finally, for our gamers that really, really love to game and enjoy sort of creating in that aspect, there is game development within computer science as well. There's different pathways there, whether you're interested in sort of doing that visual storytelling and writing of the actual game story, to actually designing, the physics behind the game and sort of the movements and what gets your character from the broomsticks if you're playing Hogwarts Legacy, all the way to the Chamber of Secrets, right? There's a couple of different avenues or ways that you can take it. But the opportunity and the thing that I want you to know about technology is that it really is endless and really applies to many different areas and industries. So if you have sort of that interest area, there's not just that one simple form of computer science that you could take it in, but there's a couple of different computing pathways where you can leverage that computing to do good in this world and to explore. So I will pass it on over to Loretta, who's going to share a little bit more about what it means to design with purpose.
Yeah, design with purpose. So, on the poll, I saw that this was not very big in terms of an interest area, but I want people to think about it. And it may be, you might not understand it as well, but again, that's what this section is for, right? So, again, have you ever played with those Legos? You were using them when you were younger. You didn't exactly know what you were building, but it was something, it was some kind of design. It was coming out. You don't really know what it was, but you really just enjoyed the design and the build and the putting things together. Um, if that was an interest to you, are you, do you get lost sometimes on some of the art that you might see on social media, right? Are there certain architectural structures that, you're just in awe of, that you love to look at? You can't believe, how was that designed? How was that built? Um, if those are the types of questions that you're asking yourself, then this could be an interest area for you. Awesome. So, architecture and building sciences. To me, this is really the section that is for like the designers, the creatives, the if you are have an interest in drawing, and maybe you doodle and build and draw structures in a notepad, or some people even do sneaker design or fashion design. That is also a very real something that you could have an interest in for this section. But thinking about architecture and structure, so if you are, just in awe of buildings like the Guggenheim or the Taj Mahal, the Burj Khalifa, the Eiffel Tower, right? That is architecture. Those are structures that have been built. They are standing the test of time. Somebody, drew up those plans, and put that together. And so architecture really is the art and science of designing and building structures. And you're seeing a project through from the ideation stage all the way through to the final project, right? So you're planning, you're designing, and you're involved in the construction of that building. And so architects often have to think about form, they have to think about functionality, materials that they're going to use, context, sustainability, right? You want this building to be around for a very long time. So what materials are going to be the best to use when building this? That, am I building it where there's a lot of snow or a lot of rain or sandstorms? And so those are the types of things that you have to take into consideration when building different structures. And then we have interior design, right? Which could be another term for it, which is interior architecture. And so we're really thinking about the design and the creating of the interior spaces of a building. And so we have created this wonderful, through architecture, we have this wonderful building, but we want the inside to match what the outside is looking like as well. And so in the inside, we have to think about functionality. You have to think about the safety inside the building. You have to make sure that it's also aesthetically pleasing. So interior designers often have to think about spatial planning and structural design and building codes, right? Making sure that the code that the building is ready to go, the electrical wires, the pipes, all of those things are involved in that interior design realm. And then for our industrial designers, this might be one that people really haven't heard of the most. I didn't know what it was until I started working at Wentworth, to be quite honest. But interior designers, excuse me, industrial designers really are creating and developing concepts for mass-produced products, right? So things that we use every day. They again are thinking about functionality, aesthetics, usability. Um, they have to consider things. Interior industrial design really kind of sits at the intersection of art, business, and engineering. I have seen industrial designers build or excuse me, design things from, something as large as a vehicle to something like a water bottle. I had a student last semester who was designing a water bottle that runners would be able to um, use, like long distance runners would be able to have in their hand. And that was like a final project that he was working on because he was a runner himself and he was like, sometimes I got to hold and grip this water bottle. And so again, thinking about ways to solve those problems. And he actually paired up with an engineer just to think about the functionality and the usability of this. And one thing I hope you guys noticed throughout all five of the sections that we talked about is really this interdisciplinary um, theme that's happening, right? So engineers could be involved with everything in this. Sustainability could have a place everywhere within all five of these themes that we've talked about, right? So it's not just one thing or isolated. STEM really is an interdisciplinary field. And you'll have many cross sections or things intersecting with one another.
Awesome. Fantastic. So I know that we shared sort of a lot, and we tried to kind of take potential interests and themes of things that you like to do, both outside the classroom and everyday life, and sort of theme them in these different topic areas. But what I wanted to share with you all is a little bit more about how sort of this exploration can manifest when you're getting ready to look at colleges and universities. And, even if you're in your current senior year and you're applying to colleges as we speak, or, you're just about to get ready for that college search process and are thinking about it, but really, really still on the fence or wondering how can I continue that exploration. At Wentworth, we have 5 different schools on our campus. We have the School of Management, the School of Architecture and Design, the School of Computing and Data Science, the School of Sciences and Humanities, the School of Engineering. And all of our schools and areas provide students with an opportunity to explore some of these disciplines that we shared and showcase. But more so, each of our individual schools has a specific exploratory track that students can take as they jump in or enter into that undergraduate pathway, right? So you might be jumping into the School of Engineering and wondering, oh, I still don't know quite yet what engineering that I want to be. There's an exploratory option for you to kind of go in and be able to sample and see what it is like to understand different pathways and then choose from there. And it's really important to understand that because many oftentimes folks feel stuck at the time of application, right? They might not know exactly what it is that they want to jump into or explore, but there are these sort of foundational exploratory options that exist out there across the country and across institutions. But another perfect way to really sort of continue that exploration and understand if a field or discipline is the right fit for you is a summer pre-college opportunity. I hope that through our conversation here today, you might have been energized and excited and want to continue learning and want to dive deeper into some of the majors or disciplines or themes that you've seen here on the screen. But there are opportunities to do that on our campus over the summer. For those of you that might be just starting off your high school journey, you might be in your freshman or sophomore year, or parents or counselors that are on the call might have a young one that just started off high school and have an interest in STEM, but don't really know what pathway they want to go in quite yet. Our Momentum program is geared towards those students that are entering their first couple years of high school, gives them an opportunity to sort of sample all of our majors on campus. We actually have 5 different interdisciplinary tracks that are kind of themed thematically, right? So you could be interested in sustainability and jump into that theme and really understand and explore some of those majors in that area. You might be interested in engineering and kind of dabble in each of them to get a stronger idea of what makes sense. But all in all, this sort of exploratory program is really for those students that are starting at ground zero and really want to grow and learn and explore more. Now, for those of you that are entering your junior or senior year in high school, or for those of you that have students that are entering their 11th and 12th grade in high school, they might have a strong focus. They definitely have an interest in computer science or they love art and design, and they want to continue to explore that even more. Our Impact Lab program is our summer residential opportunity. It's open to both domestic and international students entering 11th and 12th grade in high school and give students an opportunity to pick one specific discipline and dive deeper into that. The unique thing about all of our programs is all of them are taught by current Wentworth faculty. So these are faculty that teach at the undergraduate level that you would have in class. And students get a really good exposure into what it's like being on college and living in college life, as well as what it's like to go to school in the city of Boston.
Mhm.
And then I will share our summer fab experience is a really unique opportunity for any of you that are tuning into this call that are from the Massachusetts, specifically Boston area. This 4-week program is geared towards students entering 11th and 12th grade from Boston or attending Boston public schools. And it's our design build program. So for those students that are interested in architecture and design, it's a great opportunity for them to dive deeper. They work on a community build project and really get a really immersive look into architecture and design. We do have a variety of different opportunities, and I share these with you just so that you know what exists out there, whether it is at Wentworth or at another institution. There's multiple opportunities and pathways for you to sort of pursue to continue that exploration and that discovery during your high school career. So, without further ado, I know we shared a lot of information and
Yes, absolutely.
we could assume there's probably a lot of questions that you all might have for us. So I will bring it back so we can answer some of those questions.
Yeah,
Yes. Thank
please.
you. Thank you. I'm energized. I'm ready to go back to high school and participate in the program. This is awesome. So everyone, we are now in our live Q&A. And so any questions that you have, go ahead and drop them in the Q&A tab and then we'll be able to answer them out loud. I am going to go ahead and get started with our first question. It reads, which classes would you recommend taking to best set me up for a career in STEM, especially bio or medicine?
Mm,
Questions.
great
Um,
question.
so, I mean, I'll chime in, or actually, Loretta, do you want to take this one?
Sure, I can. Um, um, Bio and you said medicine, right?
Yes.
Um, I think you're definitely going to want to make sure your life sciences are strong, your grades there. So your bio, your chem, your physics, very strong grades. If you're thinking, I don't know if that's bio, like engineering or just regular biology, definitely strengthening those science grades. And then if you ever wanted to take that into like in engineering or anything like that, pre-calc is something I would definitely recommend making sure you have on your transcript. Um, if you can do it more advanced, like a calculus, that's excellent as well. But definitely strengthening up, like I said, those sciences and that math, those math courses.
All righty, thank you. So our next
Yeah,
question shares or says, does the summer programs that you mentioned cost money?
Good question.
yeah, great
Um,
question.
Yeah, so some of our programs are at a cost to the student, so they are tuition based. All of our programs though have financial aid opportunities. We did, I think, in the previous slide, shared a link to our website. I can sort of go back to that so folks can
Hmm.
see there. If you visit us on our website at wit.edu /pre-college, you'll be able to see sort of all of our offerings. We are actually going to be going live with our summer 2026 offerings along with our courses slated in the next couple weeks. And then for Momentum, we're going to be going live with those in the new year. So stay tuned for those. But again, all of our programs do have tuition based opportunities for students and are application and or registration based depending on the program as well.
Okay, next question. Do you have to be local to attend the summer programs?
Good
Yeah,
question.
that's a great question. So it depends. So Impact Lab is a residential program as well as Momentum will be, hoping to be residential as well for this year. And so students can, we are welcoming students from the Impact Lab in the past has had students from all over the country, international students as well. So open to international and domestic students for those two. Summer Fab is only for students who go to school and live in the city of Boston.
Okay, thank you. Next
You're welcome.
question. What areas do you think are highly demanded in the real world in the next 10
Mm.
to 20 years?
Mm,
Wow.
good question. So I would kind of flip this question back to the person who posed it and say, um, there are many different major areas that we shared that have lucrative career pathways.
Mhm.
If folks are concerned about like ROI and placement and what their job's going to look like, and how sort of how their average starting salary will look like 4 years, our average starting salary for our graduate students is around $75,000 post grad, which is great. And 97% of our graduating class are either in a job or attending a graduate school and pursuing a master's degree in a discipline. I would say definitely it really depends on your interest area. And I would really frame and start there as a point of reference, right? What is it that excites you or your student the most? And then sort of doing some research there in terms of potential pathways, right? Taking that interest. So if it is robotics engineering or if it's sustainability or industrial design, what are kind of pathways? Because I know Loretta mentioned industrial design, for example. It might be a major that might be new to many folks, but you might have a student that's in love with Nike Jordans, right? Or sneakers, right? And they might love creating sneakers. There's definitely potential to work for a major sneaker company, whether that's Nike, whether that's Puma, but there's also different pathways and potentials there. So I would kind of like flip it back to understand a little bit more about like what their interest is and then diving deeper into potential like career pathways from there.
Okay, great. Next question is I am a high school freshman and I'm absolutely in love with humans, biology, and languages. That's
Mm.
super fascinating. I was wondering, are there any summer programs that Wentworth offers, that will be helpful for me given my interests?
Yes, great question.
Yeah.
So I would say, I mean, there's a couple. Obviously, I know some of our programs have sort of grade requirements, but there's a couple of different offerings that we have. I'll sort of share here on for our Impact Lab program. For students that are interested in biology in particular, we do run a biotech and a bioengineering track that really focuses in on biology and provides students that are interested in that area an
Hmm.
opportunity to dive deeper into what it would be like to explore biological engineering as well as biomedical engineering. We also have a climate resilience program. So if you're interested in biology and have a really strong passion for the environment through that interest in biology, there's an opportunity to dive deeper into biology and potentially chemistry as well, and look at climate resilience. And that's one of the unique ones where it's not just about the sciences there, but it's also about the humanities as well. So in that
Mm.
particular major, students are looking at the sciences, but they're also looking at humanities, sociology, and how really climate change has impacted urban centers, living environments, communities within cities, and how can we sort of adjust those urban living areas to be more resilient to climate change down the road. Who lives in those cities? Humans, right? We
Mm.
inhabit every sort of space, and so how can we sort of build more robust and more resilient communities that really in turn impact humans and the life that we have here on this earth for the better.
Hmm.
So those are a couple of different pathways, and all of those could be featured in our Impact Lab program. And then for the students that are a little bit younger, in that ninth and 10th grade, you are able to experience that in Momentum as well.
Yeah.
Okay, our next question. I'm interested in both medicine and computer science, but I
Mm,
don't know what includes both. Any
Mm.
advice or direction that you can offer?
that's a great question.
Um, that is a great question. I think the first one that comes top of mind to me is going to be my biomedical. I think that is really something that you're able to kind of explore the life sciences pieces of it, maybe get some wet lab experience. You're doing bio, maybe some chemistry. But there is kind of this piece of programming, especially when if you are looking to, like I said, build medical instruments and medical devices at some point, depending on what you're building or designing, those things have to be programmed as well, right? Like when we go through, if you have a MRI or some kind of imaging, those things don't just happen on their own. There is some kind of programming in the background that's happening as you are being treated or getting your imaging. So that one is the one that comes top of mind to me. I think biomedical is something I would advise the student to look into a little bit more, a little further.
Yeah. I would just add to in robotics also, like, so I know Loretta had mentioned this in the engineering slides, but robotics is also another area. So robotics engineering is sort of a culmination of computer science, mechanical engineering, and electrical and computer engineering. And so really with robotics engineering, you might have the opportunity to work on robotics-based products that enhance medical hospitals, right? We talked about orthopedic surgeries. We talked about potential areas in the medical field that robotics is helping improve. Precision, being able to code and, ensure that that robot makes that precise incision on a specific thing, right? Those are sort of medical advances that are in the robotics area. But definitely sort of blend that passion for computer science and biology there.
Yeah, good one.
Okay, next question. If I want to pursue a biomedical engineering career, how can I balance classes and clubs um, in both physics and chemistry?
Clubs in chemistry and
Yeah,
physics?
so it says
Okay.
balancing, kind of thinking about just their classes as well as just
Yeah.
extracurriculars with the demands of, what comes from being in physics and
Yeah.
chemistry.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good question. You're definitely, especially someone who's majoring in biomedical engineering, you don't just have your lecture classes, but you also have lab, right? So you have what could first be four classes is now six because physics has a lab to it and chemistry has a lab to it. And so you're like, hold on, this is kind of like six questions. But so um I personally would recommend for the first year, maybe no clubs, right? Get a hang of your schedule. Is this something that, I'm able to manage in my schedule? And then maybe not even first year, maybe first semester, right? Let's get a hang of our classes. Let's get a hang of our schedule and our academics. That is what we're there for first. And then if you want to add in a club after that second semester, um, go for it. But definitely focusing on those academics first. The clubs and the social life will come. I promise.
And I will just add too for those of you that might be a little bit younger in your high school journey, and you're like wondering, I need to be involved in like every single club and organization, and it needs to look great on my college application, and I need to show all of these things. That is wonderful, right? Breadth is always great to see in a college application. It's fantastic. I will say that. But what also is fantastic is consistency, right? So maybe you scaling back in terms of choices of clubs and organizations that you're involved in your high school journey and picking those like one or two that like speak to you, but you show consistency, right? You show up each and every year, you're involved. You maybe take on a little bit more of a leadership role in the club or org, right? That is
Mhm.
also what really shines is being able to see that consistent involvement and that connectingness to that organization through your high school journey as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Andres, and thank you, Loretta, for sharing all of this great
Yeah.
information with our audience. Like I said, I'm energized, and I wish I could go back to being a high school student. So can only
Yeah.
imagine what's in store, for our students. So with that, everyone, we are now at the end of our webinar.
Yeah.
Just a reminder that this webinar is being recorded. And so you'll be able to access it through email. So we will send you a link. And before we wrap up, Andreas and Loretta, I just want to make sure, was there any other final words you want to leave with our attendees?
Yeah, I feel so bad we didn't get to everybody's questions, but please, if you want to go on the website, you can look up more information there. But also, if you want to email us, it's precollege@wit.edu. Again, that is precollege@wit.edu. The conversation doesn't really have to stop here. It will either be myself or Andreas. We are a very small department, so we are the ones who are answering that email the most. And so please, if you still have questions after this, precollege@wit.edu is where you can connect and get in touch with us.
Perfectly said.
Thank you so much. Thank you again, and thank you for attending our webinar sponsored by Team Life as well as Wentworth Institute of Technology. Have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.